Hey guys, Tarke here, and this league in particular, there's been a lot of pressure on players to do the most optimal everything. What's the best build? What's the best Atlas passive tree? What do I do? What do I do? I've seen a lot of it in my comment section, the comment section of other YouTube creators. I've seen it on my Patreon build reviews. So I've collected a list of all the things that I would avoid and some advice. I'm going to be going over picking the right build, how to actually know what build you want to play, Atlas passive skill tree stuff. I know the Atlas passive skill tree isn't out yet, but this all stands. It's how to select what to go for, and some stuff on the loot filters. So first off, knowing your own playstyle. I think a lot of people forget about this and they instead just obsess over whatever the meta build for the league is. We saw this in recent leagues with Seismic Trap being the best build and people league starting Seismic Trap when they know they hate traps. A lot of people are saying we're going to see it this league with Explosive Ballistas being one of the most recommended builds, and some people like that everyone hates totems. Well, a lot of people just like to kill bosses, so it's fine. But still, it's very important to know your playstyle. And I think the main thing when it comes to that is knowing your playstyle compared to the playstyle of the people you're getting these builds from. So I've got a lot of experience with this because I'm someone who only plays solo self-found, and this league, for my league starter video, I said, hey guys, this is what I'm league starting. It's not the best setup, but it's interesting. I think most people should play Gladiator, not Deadeye. It's a bleed rupture bow build in case you didn't know. And I outlined some of the cases where the Deadeye was better than Gladiator, but in every time I've spoken about it, I've stressed that Gladiator is the better option for the vast majority of players. I've then been swarmed in the comment section by people with very minimal like game knowledge who would very clearly be better playing Gladiator, asking for like really basic like noobs first build questions. I've been doing my best to answer them, but I have to keep saying like I think you should be playing Gladiator. And there's some resistance there. They're like, no, but I want to play this one. I'm like, yeah, but why do you want to play this one? Do you want to play it because you actually want to play it? Or do you want to play it because Tarke's playing it? And I see that a lot with content creators. We'll make guides. We'll say, this is what we're playing. We can have the best reason in the world for why we're playing something. And then people just copy it because it's what the streamer is playing. Please, 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 if you're going to copy a content creator or a build forum or whatever, think, how does my playstyle align with the playstyle of the person making this? I also do Patreon build reviews, and I've seen a lot of that in the reviews that I've been getting this league. I've seen people who I know, because I know them personally, sending me the builds they're planning, and it's like, you're never going to have this level of currency. Like, I'm just like, no, like you're setting yourself up for failure by selecting some of these builds. Please be realistic with what you're going for. Conversely, if you're someone that knows that I am someone who day one, I am killing all the new endgame bosses, I roll in more currency, like I am just absolute Chad gamer, well then you probably want to be looking at different kinds of builds, right? Really think about that. Think about, are you someone who plays one build per league? Are you someone who re-rolls every week? If you're someone who plays one build per league, then you're probably looking for something a little bit slower, something that you can get a clear progression path with and have incremental upgrades throughout the entire experience. You're probably also looking for something which is then very well-rounded, that can do all the mapping content and all the bossing content. If you're someone who re-rolls a new build every week, if you're someone who nearly always re-rolls within 2-3 days of a league start, then just pick whatever will give you the smoothest leveling experience. If you know you're going to level like day 2, day 3, then just pick something which will get you through the axe nice and clean. Day 1 will get you into some early mapping content. You can then feel out the new league mechanic and pick a new build based on what the new endgame content and the league mechanic feels like. When it comes to making your own build, which a lot of people make their own build, there are a lot of mistakes in making your own build, and I actually recommend most people do make their own builds. But if you're going to make your own builds, please be minimal in your scope. So again, going back to my Patreon build reviews, I had someone recently submit a build, and it was a trap build. They wanted to do crit. They wanted to do ignite. They wanted to do call to fire conversion. They wanted to have duration scaling, and they wanted to use cooldown traps. And I'm like, dude, stop. So we then broke everything down. We then separated, okay, if you want to do conversion stuff, go for these skills. If you want to do damage over time, then yeah, you can do Burning Ground, Fire Trap, or Ignite Fire Trap. Go for these ascendancies. Maybe look at Elementalist, maybe look at Chieftain. you want to go hit based, go this way? Are you more focused on bossing? Are you more focused on mapping? And after we, tore everything down and separated everything, they got selected a build and they were good to go. Likewise, if you're going to content creators for build advice, also please do keep in mind what the content creator does. So I have a couple of people who they're sub to me on my Patreon, and they also get build reviews from other content creators, which is a good thing, by the way, but it can be quite funny. So they'll send me something from like their point of view of a minimum viability SSF player. So I will go for like the most basic version, and then they'll send it some like Balor Mage who comes at it from the like 50 cluster jewels version, and then they're like, yo, but like which one should I do? And I'm like, which one do you play? Like, are you that player or are you this player? Maybe go for the minimum SSF one and eventually have that as your aspiration, but like, what is it you're actually trying to do here? What do you actually enjoy playing? If you are looking for someone who kind of just plays one build a league, very clear progression, I think Pox is an excellent shout. Pox's RF Inquisitor has been a great build for many leagues now. He knows it inside and out. Cannot recommend enough. Going back to what kind of content do you like to do, bossing versus mapping. In this league, all the new endgame bosses are fully itemizable, so if you know that you hate bossing, you can just sell them all to bossing characters, in which case maybe going for a faster mapping character is better for you. If you are someone who doesn't really enjoy just endlessly grinding maps, then pick a build which is more well-rounded, that is a safe bosser, and that way, you can just do the maps to engage with all the cool new league content, all the new Atlas passive skill trees, and you can have your main focus on the bossing stuff. If you're really lost for build inspiration, we are actually doing a Bay class this Wednesday, 10 PM UK, which is all about just making builds. The goal of the episode is to help Ziggy pick his league starter. And we've said it's going to be a very kind of just like people throwing random ideas at the wall, trying to give some inspiration. So if you're looking for like the 50 mirror ultimate delve deep pusher build, probably not for you. If you're looking for a few like interesting interactions you haven't thought of before, might be worth checking out. Speaking again about this whole mapping versus bossing thing, with Siege of the Atlas, we're seeing this massive new passive skill tree. I'm waiting. Oh god, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that tree to come out, and I'm also dreading when it does come out, because when it does come out, I'm going to be inundated, as is every content creator, with Tarke, what is best Atlas tree? Again, think, if you're going to be copying players' setups, what content do they play? The way that my Atlas passive skill tree from a softcore SSF point of view will look compared to Ziz's in a hardcore SSF point of view, or Grimro from a softcore trade super min-maxer point of view, will be very different. If you're someone who does minimal trading, or you're someone who does SSF, I think it's really important to look at your current build and think, are there any key items from my build that come from a league mechanic? For example, using my Bleed Deadeye as an example, there is a bow called Crimson Storm that comes from Betrayal content. That bow, if you can get it, is actually enough to do all the end game with it. And Betrayal is a pretty good mechanic in SSF, so there's a pretty high chance that I'm going to be speccing into Betrayal as part of my Atlas skill tree. Now, if I was playing my build in Trade League and I wanted that bow, I could just buy it, so I probably wouldn't spec into it. It's also worth thinking about how much time do you have to play, because how much time you have to play will change how you spec your Atlas passive skill tree. If you're someone who can't play many hours a night and your goal is to see all the new big scary boss content, then you probably want to be focusing on league mechanics that don't slow you down too much while mapping. So you wouldn't want to be putting, for example, stuff like Blight and Ritual in every map. That doesn't mean that Blight and Ritual aren't rewarding, but it just means they make the time to map per map much longer. You can instead be focusing on mechanics which are stuff like Essence, stuff like Breach, Strong Boxes, Harby, things that won't slow your mapping down at all. Saying that though, if Blight is your favorite league mechanic, and Blight is what you have fun doing, do Blight. The economy will nearly always autocorrect. If someone like Grimro puts out a guide saying this is what his Atlas skill tree is, and a bunch of people copy it, then all the league mechanics that he's not picked, that people aren't running, will go up in value, because if you want that stuff, you need to do that league mechanic. Obviously, it's a little bit different if there's like a really obvious, like crazy exploitable thing like we had with the mirror shards dropping from Harvey before, sure, but for the most part I wouldn't really stress too much about how you spec your Atlas skill tree. I would focus much more on what do I actually enjoy, what are my goals, and just being realistic with yourself as a player. Very, very important to be realistic with yourself as a player. Finally, on that, loot filters. Neversink does amazing work with Filter Blade, and there's a new feature coming where I think you pay to join his Patreon, and you get like an auto updating like every second of the day loot filter that auto corrects the value of the market. I think that's really cool tech. I also think it's the kind of thing that could screw up some players if they don't know what they're doing. Especially like if you're an SSF, don't use that filter. That would be an awful idea. But if you're playing really niche builds, then there's a high chance you might be missing out on core bases you need. Knowing how to edit your own filters, I think, is one of the most valued and underappreciated skills in Path of Exile. It's absolutely crucial if you are very serious about, if you're the kind of person who'll spend, 5 days straight watching every single build guide, maybe instead spend half an hour watching some videos on how to make your own loot filters. In SSF, it's completely mandatory. If you're playing in private leagues, it's important. Octavian runs into this issue a lot in Hardcore Trade League because it's a much smaller player base. When he's trying to get like random niche bases for enchants or for whatever reason, he really struggles. Fortunately, he knows how to set up his own loot filters so he can ensure that he's running into that content. Again, it all ties back into the Atlas skill tree stuff. If you're like, oh, I really want like a Warband's helmet, but no one's going for that thing, is there anything I can do on the Atlas skill tree to get that? Or like, I need a very specific incursion modifier. Just take a moment to really think about, okay, what is it I want to achieve? What kind of player am I? What's my realistic goals? Am I going to be playing Path of Exile for 3 months? Am I going to be playing it for 2 weeks? And am I going to go play Elden Ring? Just, be realistic with yourself, but most importantly, have fun. Being optimal is great, but 9 times out of 10, you're just going to optimize the fun out of your game. I've been playing a lot of Battle Brothers recently, and I was lucky enough to do some collab videos with some of the top creators on that. And it was quite interesting for me because it made me look at things from, how when we do a Bay class, you get people being like, oh, these elitists, they're so out of touch, they're blah, 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 blah. I kind of saw it a little bit more from their point of view. Not that like, oh my god, these elitists are so out of touch. But one of the examples, we were talking about like build content in that game. And I quite like making spear characters because I think spears are cool. But spears aren't like the best damaging weapons. Like you can do all the content with them, but like they're not the best. And the other guy was like, oh, but spears are crap though. And I'm like, yeah, but they're fun. I like them. And I can still do the things. And it's fine. And I was having fun. So, if your favorite league mechanic is Rogue Exiles and you want to put Rogue Exiles in your maps, but Rogue Exiles aren't the best mechanic, just shove the Rogue Exiles in your maps. It's more important you're having fun, and if you're having fun, you'll play the game for longer, you'll get to higher levels, you'll get more loot dropping. Just do whatever you find most enjoyable. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Let me know if you've got any more advice for other players, by the way. Bye-bye.